Hey everyone, my name's Anthony Natal. I go by Tony though, but my mother insists that I put my full name on everything official, and she won that fight. I'm a seventh grade social studies teacher at Mechanicsburg Middle School, and I'm also a team leader for one of our academic teams, working with four other teachers on my team. I've been teaching at the middle school since 2017, so this would be my seventh year in the same position and ninth year teaching overall. I'm focused on teaching at this time students different kinds of civic online reasoning skills where they're able to verify the credibility of sources, check the source for bias, and just in general be questioning the information that they come across and thinking about it critically. I also, in the past year, last year, and then continuing into this year, have switched to a much greater focus on growth mindset. I'm also reducing grading, reducing the overall stress level, both for the students and me, and focusing more on social and emotional learning as well. Stanford is influencing a lot of my instructional decisions, thanks in large part to the program here at Millersville. So I'm pursuing my master's in assessment curriculum and teaching with a STEM concentration, and this is the last course. Of course, I'm assuming it is for many of you as well. Next, I'm interested in a position at some point in the near term in curriculum development. I will probably continue on to get a supervisory certification. Not probably, I will. Hobbies and interests, I enjoy hiking, trail running, just in general being active outside. It's both gym and church for me. My favorite hiking experience was just a couple years ago, not this summer, but the one before. I hiked Bright Angel Trail in the Grand Canyon, and it was probably one of the hardest hikes it was the hardest hike I ever did, one of the hardest physical things I've ever done, but it was incredibly beautiful, and the payoff was immense. Outside of outdoors and nature, I of course love history. I love old wisdom and passing that along, so I like philosophy. I also am interested in how the mind works, psychology, and spiritual studies, so different religions from across the world and different spiritual teachings. I also enjoy reading, drawing, photography, and writing. Possible topics that I'm looking at for this class, for my action research project. Our district is going to be changing our rubrics in the next couple years, and the last class I had in this program, we looked very intensely at assessment and rubrics. So I'm considering continuing to change my rubrics to have them focus solely on measuring skills and content, and sort of finding a way to also hold students accountable for social skills and soft skills that they need to be successful. As far as another topic I was looking at was mindful moments, starting the beginning of every class with a 2-minute meditation. This is something that I was looking at that I thought would be excellent for the students and for me. Last year I took a course at our school, and it occurred like right after the school day. And I would walk in there with no mental capacity to focus and listen. And yet we would do these mindful moments for just 2-3 minutes at the beginning of the class, and then I'd be ready to learn. So I really feel strongly that I'm going to do that, whether or not that's part of my action research project or not. Another thing, as a team leader, I'm focused on team building. There's a lot of discussion at our school right now about PBIS, positive behavior intervention supports, and what each team is doing. I would like to lead that discussion, as I believe my thoughts on how to build a team have proven successful over the years. So, the dialectic action research spiral, or the action research process, as mentioned by Mills and Spencer, they outline 4 stages, and what I like about this graphic, which I redrew from the book, is that it shows the recursive nature of the process. The question they asked was, which would I find the most difficult? So I think identifying an area of focus is often the most difficult in anything. looking at the chaos of all the options that are available to you in the world and narrowing it down to just a few of like, here's what I want to focus in on. I think that could be extremely difficult. I've been spending time, though, for a couple years now thinking about it. Of course, what I originally thought is not even on my mind anymore, to the point where I can't even recall it. So that could be an issue for me. Next, we come to the step collecting data. I put a star next to that because it's the all-star that everything comes back to. It's a data-driven process. Of course, trying to inform your practice through the data. Next, I don't think collecting data will be particularly difficult. It might be time intensive and laborious in that sense, but I don't think the thinking or the thought process or the decision process for that will be as difficult. I could be wrong. Analyzing, interpreting data, that's a spot where if I did a qualitative study, I think I might rip my eyes out. I do not like statistics. I hope I never have to take another statistics class in my life. The mathematics portion of it, I love, from a history perspective or from the social studies perspective of how you can use statistics or how you can understand them, how they can be manipulated. That I find fascinating, but running tests of validity and whatnot, no thank you. I am one of those people that, as I advance in my career, I really want to find a friend who's really good at qualitative research, and I'll do the quantitative. So that could be the hardest part for me if I am forced to do a qualitative study. Dr. Drian, that's kind of me asking, do we have to do a qualitative study? And number 4, developing an action plan. I saw in the book that it said you could do. It actually suggested the qualitative. Now I'm not sure if I mixed up the terms. I know the quantitative is the one with the numbers. Developing an action plan is where I am thinking that could be the hardest for me. Coming up with the actual plan of how I'm actually going to contact, all the students and the parents if necessary, how I'm going to coordinate it with admin. Being able to implement the plan could be a problem for me at my district, and we'll talk more about that as we talk about the obstacles here. So right now, I think possibly number 4 could be the biggest challenge. Obstacles to action research. Your district might have certain requirements in place, or school might have requirements, or the team, possibly that could prevent you from doing the action research process as you envision it, or could at least place limitations on what and how you could do things. Another limitation for me that I see is my collaborative partners. I have to be in lockstep or relative lockstep with 2 other teachers. I mean, I have a good deal of freedom in the day-to-day, but I have to be in around, within a week or 2 of them as we progress through the units. The furthest we get apart ever is 2 weeks, and, I start to panic at that point. But it always seems to work out. But putting in place all this extra work, I don't know what I'm going to need to cut or change, and then that could be a negotiation with my partners as well if they need to also change things. So also the time putting in place. I think, doing an action research project every, couple of years for, a month or 2 might be quite sustainable. I don't think it is sustainable, in my opinion, to do an action research project daily for the rest of your career. There is already way too much for teachers. We have a hard time prioritizing what we want to do, how we're going to use all these different things that people put in front of us or demand that we use. And I have seen an incredible burnout rate in the last 2 to 3 years. In the last 3 years, we've replaced 54 professionals, teaching professionals at the middle school. So, yeah, asking me to do this daily, again, I just don't think it's practical. Informing stakeholders could be a challenge as well. With the current political climate, you've got to be really careful about what your research is, what it implies, how people might read into it. And so I could see that being a challenge. And finally, I think when you do communicate with parents, then you need to make sure you emphasize that you are innovating things and not reinventing it. You don't want people to think that their kids are not getting the same education as every other team or as kids in the past did, and that you're using them as guinea pigs. So it's like, hey, I'm testing this out because I think it will work better, not reinventing the wheel. The last question was about Ferrance presenting 2 stories and it asked which story resonated and what concerns do I have. I feel like I've been expressing the concerns. So which story really resonated the most with me was the one from Rebecca Wisniewski. Apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly. In Lowell, Massachusetts. I like that she talked about the swing of the educational pendulum, something that often comes up, just came up yesterday in a team meeting with my team, as we talked about AI and how more and more people are adapting to AI by doing pen and paper. So that educational pendulum swinging. Able to direct your own research and impact classroom learning, that spoke to me. But the other article also said something very similar, with a chance to study my own practices. So both of them resonated to some degree, but that first one resonated the most with me because it seemed like things were more united at Lowell, Massachusetts, and that people were more collaborative there, which is much more like my school district. Whereas Julia Nora and Roger Williams Middle School, she said she had 100% increase in collaboration with one other teacher, and I almost kind of snorted at that because we are constantly collaborating with all different types of teachers in my school, and it's just surprising to me. A chance to study my own practice, she talked about, which resonated. And again, one of the quotes that really stood out to me, where she says, action research demands the skills of two types of professionals: teachers who work in the trenches every day, and educational researchers who can help us to assess teaching in a way that gives us meaningful information. And I think that's a nice summary of what is needed to do action research well. So the article that resonated the most with me was the one by Wisniewski. My concerns about the educational process or the action research process, were really expressed here. My main concerns are with collaborative partners and how the timing of things. Will I be able to keep pace with them and execute this? And I'm sure I can, but that will be a minor concern. I look forward to another class with you, Dr. Drian, and with the rest of the class as well, the rest of the professionals in this class, students in this class. It has been my experience that Dr. Drian is the best at facilitating that classroom discussion, so I look forward to it. Thanks. Have a great day.